I think it's pretty safe to say that the future of the Star Wars franchise seems to be quite expansive, not just with their books, novels, comics, and video games, but also let's not forget about their new live-action Star Wars TV series and animated TV shows, as well as the new Star Wars trilogy of films to arrive in the near future. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, the one thing about Disney and Lucasfilm is that yes, we do know that they are now in a phase of desperation and damage control in order to really get Star Wars back on track and back on its feet again, to really become more successful than it ever was before. That's exactly what Bob Chapek wants. He really wants to make Star Wars the best that can be, and this is exactly what Bob Iger also said at the Rise of Skywalker premieres, that they are now just figuring out exactly what they can do with the Star Wars franchise and how much potential it really does indeed hold. And the first thought that really went into my mind when I heard Bob Iger say that was, of course, why couldn't they have had that mentality way before they released The Force Awakens? That's just my take on things. So everything related to the future of Star Wars, we do know that Bob Chapek is really being guided by Bob Iger to becoming the proper CEO that he needs to be to run Disney when it comes to Marvel, when it comes to Star Wars and other franchises out there that Disney owns. But it's not just that. When it comes to the Star Wars films by Kathleen Kennedy that are now being cancelled one by one, by, of course, Bob Chapek, one movie in particular, I think, would have really been a disaster waiting to happen that was going to have many different connections to The Last Jedi by director Rian Johnson. Now, with both Disney and Lucasfilm now finished with the Skywalker saga, they are now fully invested in their new Star Wars universe and their new trilogy in general. It's explained that currently both Bob Iger and Bob Chapek are developing multiple plans in order to reunite the fans around the world to create a better future for Star Wars. It's noted that Bob Chapek recently just cancelled a Star Wars movie that was in production and initiated by Kathleen Kennedy before her creative power was taken away. It's explained that the Star Wars film that was cancelled by Bob Chapek involved a post-The Rise of Skywalker era that would focus on the Broom Boy from The Last Jedi as one of the new Jedi Masters in a Star Wars universe. Now, it's explained that Kennedy wanted to develop a film that would focus on the Broom Boy, also known as Temuri Blagg, from The Last Jedi, and the character based on the world of Canto Bight. Let me just say one thing right here, is that this, I think, would have been a major mistake if Disney actually let this through and actually allowed Kathleen Kennedy to even develop this. To actually have a movie connected to The Last Jedi, I think would have just been a disaster waiting to happen. Moving on. Now, this story was actually said to be connected to The Last Jedi in several ways that would explore the character's later life and his connections with other Force-sensitive individuals that were once hunted down by the First Order during Kylo Ren's rule. Now, the film would also focus on a new region of the galaxy that would include tons of Force users that were far more powerful than anything ever before, where this film was recently scrapped by Bob Chapek as he is cancelling many of Kathleen Kennedy's movies that she initiated during her creative power. So, one thing I will say about Kathleen Kennedy is that this is once again another prime example that she is a very poor leader of Star Wars, a very poor president of Lucasfilm, and she's very incompetent. She doesn't really know exactly what the fans want, and like I've said before in the past, we've seen what she did with Solo, we've seen what she did with The Last Jedi, and even The Rise of Skywalker. That, to me, is enough to finally let her go of her creative power, which is exactly what Chapek did for the most part, all but 2 Star Wars TV series that Kennedy actually has control over, which doesn't bother me too much because it's going to be very minuscule. It's going to be a low percentage of the overall Star Wars universe. You know, George, John, and Dave are working all together very hard to really develop something new and magical for the fans to enjoy. And this new timeline that Kathleen Kennedy wanted to develop that would focus on Temuri Blagg, also known as the Broom Boy from The Last Jedi, I just think would have left a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths after actually watching this movie if it were to actually be made. To actually even consider a film that was going to be connected to The Last Jedi would have been a mistake in and on itself. And I think that when we look at everything related to what Rian Johnson has done to Star Wars, how his movies single-handedly destroyed or derailed the franchise, now Chapek has to pick up the pieces and put it back together again and rebuild it into something better with George, John, and Dave's help by his side. Do I believe that we are on a better road to Star Wars? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to be an easy task? Absolutely not. It's going to be a very hard task to really complete and to get through. It's going to take a lot of time and work and effort, and it really is going to take a lot of focus on the creator's end. So, like I've said before in the past, guys, everything related to Kathleen Kennedy, let me know what you think about her position right now with Star Wars, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again. No.